Alfred Adler had a simple but audacious claim: every human being begins life feeling inferior. Not some people. Not damaged people. Every person, without exception, enters the world small, dependent, and acutely aware of their own inadequacy relative to the adults around them. This universal experience, Adler argued, is not a wound to be healed but a spark to be understood. He called it the inferiority feeling, and he believed it was the primary force shaping human personality and behavior. Adler parted ways with his mentor Sigmund Freud on exactly this point. Where Freud saw human behavior as driven by sexual impulses and unconscious conflicts, Adler saw something more fundamental: the relentless human desire to move from a position of felt weakness to one of felt competence. He called this striving for superiority, not dominance over others, but mastery over one's own sense of limitation. In healthy development, inferiority feelings work exactly as they should. A child struggles to read, feels the sting of inadequacy, and is motivated to practice until the letters make sense. An adult recognizes a gap in their knowledge, feels discomfort, and works to fill it. The feeling itself is not the problem. It is the compass that orients us toward growth. The problem arrives when the gap between where a person feels they are and where they believe they should be becomes too wide to bridge through normal effort. When inferiority feelings are overwhelming, when they are reinforced by neglect, ridicule, physical disadvantage, or excessive pampering, the psyche can respond in two destructive ways. The first is withdrawal. The person gives up striving altogether, retreats into passivity, and constructs a life organized around avoiding failure rather than pursuing growth. The second is overcompensation. The person drives themselves or others with a relentless, aggressive energy that is less about genuine achievement and more about silencing an inner voice that never stops whispering you're not enough. Adler coined the term inferiority complex specifically to describe this second, more visible pattern. A complex, in his usage, was not simply a feeling but a rigid, unconscious system of compensation that had taken on a life of its own. The person with an inferiority complex does not experience their striving as a response to inadequacy. They experience it as simply who they are. The ambition feels natural. The need to dominate feels justified. The inability to tolerate criticism feels like a reasonable response to an unfair world. Recognizing an inferiority complex in operation requires looking at behavior patterns rather than stated motivations. The executive who cannot delegate because no one else is capable enough. The parent who lives through their child's achievements because their own felt insufficient. The person who name drops, inflates credentials, or speaks loudly in group settings to ensure they noticed. Each of these patterns, Adler argued, is a compensation strategy, a way of managing the unbearable feeling of not measuring up. Adler also identified what he called the superiority complex, a person so deeply convinced of their own inadequacy that they construct an elaborate performance of superiority to hide it. Arrogance, in this framework, is not the opposite of insecurity. It is insecurity wearing a mask. What made Adler's theory so enduring was its optimism. Unlike frameworks that located psychological suffering in fixed trauma or biological drives, Adler believed the inferiority feeling could be redirected. The key was what he called social interest, the capacity to feel connected to others, to care about the common good, to measure one's own worth not against an imaginary ideal of perfection but against one's contribution to the community around them. A person with strong social interest transforms inferiority feelings into a motivation to serve rather than to dominate. Adler's clinical work was shaped by this conviction. He did not try to eliminate the inferiority feeling from his patients. He tried to help them understand it, to trace its origins honestly, and to redirect the energy it generated toward connection and genuine competence rather than hollow performance. The inferiority complex remains one of the most widely recognized terms in popular psychology, though it is often stripped of the nuance Adler gave it. For Adler, it was never simply a label for low self-esteem. It was a description of a person who had taken the universal human experience of inadequacy and built an entire personality structure around managing it, a structure that protected them from the pain of feeling insufficient while simultaneously preventing them from ever truly believing they were enough. To understand Adler's inferiority complex is to understand a great deal about human ambition, human cruelty, and human courage. It is to see that what drives people toward greatness and what drives them toward destruction often share the same root. The difference lies not in the feeling itself but in what a person chooses to do with it. Subscribe to Psychology Theories Explained to explore more of the ideas that shape the modern mind.